I'm the director, Kevin Walker.
I am editor and I guess sort of director, Phineas Ziegler.
I'm Logan Stecker, and I played Othello in our project.
My name's Atticus Ziegler, and I played Desdemona and Rodrigo.
And I'm Ricky Davis. I played Cassio and Amelia.
I feel like Blade Runner was a very big inspiration for the film.
Yeah,
Exactly
we weren't
what
trying
it
to
was.
replicate Blade Runner. We were just taking from it in the sense that the lighting is magnificent in Blade Runner.
It's
We
a
like
very,
the theme.
it's a very beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful. I mean,
the
I
music
watched
as well.
everything from that movie is something that we wanted to take from it and sort of try to transform into our own.
Right.
And I think we did that partially.
You know, we don't have millions of dollars in our budget. But we did find some really good, like, Blade Runner-esque lighting when it was raining. We went out at night, and the reflections from the rain were beautiful. You were the visionary for what was going to happen in the film. You were the one who took the script, picked it apart, and decided the order that things should happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was the one who was positioning things, I guess, because I was also the person handling the camera. So it made the most sense for me to take control of that.
I was the one who started out with that creative vision, and then you fully realized it.
It's like we had a filter, and I was the second layer of the filter.
At the very start, there was the Iago monologue, and it talked about Cassio betraying Othello and whatnot. And I think we just had to. I think we did a particularly good job of syncing up the movie clips with that monologue. And while it might not be exactly on the surface, like something that people might see, like if you just take a look at it, or if keen-eyed viewers might notice that first time around.
One of the smartest decisions we made while we were filming it was we decided to skip a lot of
Cut out a lot of the crap.
details. Because if you want to get right to the heart of Othello, you don't need to know how everything happens. You just need to know what happens.
We
The
wanted
punchy
to
parts.
make an interesting trailer,
Mhm.
and for it to be interesting, it wasn't going to be realized if it had all of the stuff that was just like plot based. We needed the pops, we needed the quick cuts, we needed the music and all that stuff.
Yeah, for example, like we decided to, when the handkerchief drops, we just completely glossed over the Amelia picking it up, passing it to Iago. We just went straight to Cassio because what really matters is that Cassio ended up with the handkerchief.
I did a lot of work with choosing out which costumes to use for each character. One of our main ideas for that was we decided to have a color for each character. Like Cassio was originally blue, but we ended up having him red because it was kind of more tooly. Red is also the color of the first chakra, which is like the earth chakra, the base chakra.
A lot of what we wanted to do with Cassio's costume was show how he furthers the jealousy between the characters to have him be a somewhat symbol of jealousy. That's kind of why we chose to have him in a Harvard hat, because, you know, that's a prestigious institution, so people are going to be jealous of other people who can get into those places and who can afford those places. And so it's almost like a real-world parallel of Cassio's standing in the play.
We used a lot of white to represent purity, especially in Amelia's character, and pink in Desdemona's character kind of represent the same sort of thing.
There were things like Desdemona's socks, which were white, and we thought that the color really helped to bring out her sort of victimhood, but also in the sense that she was innocent and wasn't a perpetrator of the violence or anything like that.
With Amelia's costume, we wanted to do much of the same.
The green morph suit for Othello was used as a way to kind of represent a green-eyed monster. When he was overcome by jealousy, we'd have him put his mask over his face to get really angry.
Rodrigo's costume came from those sort of dark colors with the coat and the pants, but also the headset was really representative of what Rodrigo's role in Iago's plan was. It's almost like he's a soldier, you know, he's listening and he's only really talking to Iago. So the headset kind of represents that idea that Rodrigo was working for Iago and he was fighting for him, doing what some power behind him wanted him to do.
We did a lot of tricks to kind of represent emotion throughout Othello's character.
Because we saw a bamboo forest.
Especially in the bamboo forest scene was one that we did, just kind of represent anger.
And was like, oh, let's go to that. We got, I think, one of the best shots in the movie, Logan transforming into the Great-Eyed Monster.
Yeah.
The sewer scene, it was a pretty It was a pretty good scene, I think, in our.
It was a good set.
The sewer run scene kind of like represented terror.
So, like in the gutter scene with Desdemona, it's not in the book or the play or anything. It's not in there. But we added it because it really does add to that tension between Othello and Desdemona.
It was a nice callback to Antigone.
Yeah, and it was also a good example of how just while we shoot stuff like B-roll, that's when we get some of our best shots. B-roll was probably the most important thing we did while filming. Like, because it was so based around the monologue at the start and like those voiceovers, the B-roll...
It gave the actors a chance to act.
The trailer isn't heavy on dialogue, so we wanted to kind of take an extra step in the character's body language to kind of offset that lack of expository dialogue. Me personally, a lot of what I did with Cassio was make him maybe appear a little snooty, maybe appear a little like he looks down on people. Standing back straight, very tall, having a good posture when he is accepting the award from Othello.
So, like in the gutter scene, my intentions as Desdemona in that scene were to look worried and confused almost. And in that sense of sort of distress and vulnerability, hiding down there in the dark and the wet.
I did a lot of looking over faces of different emotions, like for specific scenes, like trying to represent anguish. So I kind of looked through the Google search images for anguish to kind of like get an overview of what anguish looks like in its many forms, try to like represent that in my finest form. Going back to the bamboo scene, one thing we did to kind of like amp up is we shadow boxed to kind of like get the adrenaline pumping. Cavan also did that when he did his line villainous whore. And in the suicide scene, we used water to kind of make the eyes teary. Inflection is also an important thing when acting. Knowing how you can change it with just how you're pronouncing one word, you can create a completely different meaning with each different tone. Like, I had a line that was just, oh, 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 but I spoke each O in a different way to kind of represent how Othello was feeling. Like, first his, like, realization of what happened after being told that Desdemona was innocent, and then kind of like an, oh, what have I done, to a, oh, I can't do anything about this to fix it.
Oh. Oh. Oh!